Howdy, my name is Klinge, and this is my research report over the Mind Over Matter article. Um, and I titled it Controlling the Seemingly Non Controllable Scenarios because of my personal application with it, but we will get into that later. So, the kind of overall concept of this article starts with students and how we can relate to that to us as attending at Texas A&M. So a student's normal cognitive function, it's difficult to maintain in the classroom when there are other stressors around. So stress harms students' minds, and it's hard to kind of switch that mindset to a more helpful view. But that's something we discover while reading this article, is that we want to know if a certain group of people can change their mindset from seeing stress as something as threatening to something as a tool to use to help them succeed in all aspects of life. So the question is, can people change perception of threats? The study begins with a group of 50 people who are split evenly between male and female, 25 and 25. They're all pre screened just to make sure they don't have any underlying medical conditions. And they are given different threat responses in a form of two different stress tests. Now, one is called the Trier Social Stress Test, or the TSST, and that one has them present a public speech in front of evaluators, and these evaluators are giving negative facial cues and all kinds of things to kind of make the mind go into a place of, thinking to themselves that they're not saying the speech right, or all kinds of different attention biases that are negative. And then with all of these challenges, of all these threats, these reappraisal, ignore, and control groups are all measured in different ways to record the end results. And during this research analysis, there are 3 different tests to record these results, which are the electrocardiography, impedance cardiography, and blood pressure. Now, the control group is just measured for time purposes. But the ignore group is not an experimental group like the reappraisal group. However, the ignore group is just told to ignore the cues during the test. For example, they had to stare at an X to the side of the evaluator so that they just fully ignore everything in front of them and kind of blanket it down where they never have to deal with it. However, the reappraisal group actually had to experience those things. And then this ultimately measured their relaxed state and their most active states. And then later, all of that testing, they had a participant-led questionnaire, which also reaffirmed the results from the reappraisal group, in which showed that the reappraisal group success in this experiment tied everything together. And now if we take a look at the graph from the article, it shows you that the standard error of deviation gives us a pretty high confidence rate that the reappraisal group is pretty successful in their results. It improved cardiovascular function compared to the control and the ignore group, and the experiment just has more validity in this way. Now, my personal experience is that I struggle with ADHD. So, side conversations during lecture, negative attention biases that kind of plague my mind, telling myself, like, oh, I'm stupid, I can't understand this. If I use these concepts from the reappraisal group in the study, changing stupid to success can find me a better result. So the impacts and benefits of this kind of mindset change is outsmarting impulses with proper breaks, so such as like taking a water break or getting up from lecture. These things, however, can just be short term. I can't, do this forever. But the more I do that and the more I start to use my classmates and my outside environment as things that can help me be successful, the more I'll see better GPA, my education opportunities, and building self esteem for my career goals.